Okay. Look, I gotta go for it. Okay, so you're gonna forgive me because I'm not used to talking in front of a bunch of people. I talk to the same 4 people every day. So anyway, before we get started, I just want to say it is a good feeling. When Josh called me yesterday, he was like, "Hey, it's last minute. I need you to teach this now." So anyway, so I told him I would do it, and this one kind of hits a little close to home, just because I've been through it, and I'm sure everybody else goes through it. But it's about the whole point of it is. Well, actually, I just read into it. So the first line of it is, "We are all called to evangelism." However you say that word, evangelism. I said it before. I got up here. I don't know why. And to share the gospel. And basically, what that means is, it basically means share the gospel. It basically means going out and spreading God's word and to people that you don't know, or kind of like what Josh will do when when y'all walk around through cold water and y'all pray for people. That's kind of what it means by spreading the gospel, spreading the word. There's a little passage below it. It says, "It is easily one of the most challenging things for us Christians because it can be way out of our comfort zone. The danger that is Jesus' commandment to seek out the lost is treated as optional to many of us. This is not optional; it's our calling as Christians." And for me, I can say that I'm the same way. If someone asks me to come out and pray for them, or kind of spread the word, as a sort of a lot of people in here are, you'll go there and you'll do it. But if you see that person walking on the road and they never say anything to you, you're just gonna walk right past them. So without being told, 90% of the people in this room, which is not a bad thing, are not gonna just you're just not gonna walk up to somebody and start spreading the gospel because you don't want to be looked at funny. You don't want to be looked at strange, and he's weird because he's trying to spread the gospel. But this one below us is kind of something that I relate a lot with, and it said, "Most of us are so focused on the troubles in life that we forget Jesus left us on this earth for a mission, to share the gospel with everyone we encounter." And it kind of goes with the passage above it is that I hear a lot of people say, including myself, we don't know what our calling is. But your calling is to spread the gospel, spread the name of Jesus. That is your calling. Now, you may not know what you're going to do in the next 10 years, but your calling on this earth, when you find Jesus and you give yourself to Him, is to spread the gospel. That is your calling. So whether that's just is what it is. I mean, that's what you're here for. So in my mind, that's just the first thing that come up is that is your calling, to spread the gospel. In Luke 19:10, it says, "For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who were lost." And to say that those who were lost is kind of like the strangers on the road. I mean, those who were lost do not necessarily have to be strangers. They could be in this room and lost. Lost does not mean that you don't know them, that they don't know Jesus, because they may know Jesus, but they may not know Him well enough to feel safe, to not feel lost. Because I'll be honest, before I came here, I knew Jesus, but I was lost. So, I mean, I've had a long journey in getting to know Jesus and feeling safe and confident. And, everybody has those moments, but a lot of people still feel lost. And that's okay. It's okay to feel lost, but that's just, that's just a feeling. The reason that Jesus came to this earth was to seek and save the lost. He is looking out for those who need Him. You may not know you need Jesus. I mean, a lot of people don't know they need Jesus until they get Jesus, and they've had Him, and they know the feeling about. I told Josh just the other day that somebody I know, they asked me a bunch of questions and whatnot, but I told them, if you've never felt the feeling of walking into a church and the message speaks directly to you and your heart starts to pound a little bit and you start to get a little nervous, that message is for you. You were meant to be there to hear that message. And that happened to me, especially when Galen taught. It happened to me the most. And it's really just, it kind of calls you out, not in a bad way, but it kind of calls you out. So you may not know that you need Jesus, but I mean, at the end of the day, even if you think you're 100% with Him, you still need Him. Right, yeah, right. So this little passage below, Luke 15:1, it says, tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. This made the Pharisees and teachers of religious law complain that he was associated with such a sinful people that even eating with them. So Jesus told them this story. If a man was 190, wait, hold on, sorry, I lost my place. If a man was 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go to search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. And when he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, rejoice with me because I have found my lost sheep. In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. I mean, that speaks for itself. I mean, if somebody, I know a lot of people recently have, dealt with a lot of losses and stuff, but everybody sins, of course. But when somebody gets called home like that, I feel like that's kind of what it means. It's I don't know how to explain it. I can't spit it out, but I kind of feel like that's what that's about. There's 100 others, but this one here that just that's not here anymore, or is found, or something like that, is also to celebrate rather than 100 of them could be lost, but you find one, you may find all 100 of them. It's still something to celebrate, whether it's all of them or none of them. But it says, "Are you willing to drop everything to chase after the one person in your life who is broken and needed Jesus?" And for me, yet again, it's hard to do. I'll be honest, it's hard to walk up to somebody and say, "You need Jesus." I mean, I say it all the time, but to really just sit there and look somebody in the eye and say, "You need Jesus," somebody's gonna take that offensively, and that makes them not want to come to church and not want to be around you when you sit there and tell them all the time, "Hey, you need Jesus." Now, there's different ways to go about it, of course, but it's hard to drop everything and chase after one person when that person doesn't want to be helped. But eventually, I mean, if you keep trying, it may work. You may be able to, get that person where they need to be. And like I said, that feeling when you come to church and that one message speaks to you, you just, I don't know. I mean, once you get that feeling, it never stops. You always feel like that. I mean, sometimes during the day, just sitting there and thinking, you get that feeling. You just know that somebody's watching over you. It says sheep are very unintelligent animals. They wander, get lost, and fall into troublesome situations, all because they are unaware and don't know any better. This perfectly describes people who do not know Jesus, and I can agree with that. People who don't know Jesus, people who do know Jesus even are gonna do the same thing. They're gonna sin. They're gonna do whatever they want to do. I mean, you can't, you know what I mean? You can't stop it. It's hard to explain because it really speaks for itself. There's really nothing to say about it, but they fall into sin and feel lost in life and wander from place to place, looking for satisfaction because they don't know any better. And yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as above. I mean, it just speaks for itself. You see every day somebody sinning, and even though you may sin, there's really no worse sin. Every sin is a sin. You can't. If I went out and did something, and somebody went out and did something worse than me, we're both sinning. It doesn't matter whose is worse. It's the same concept. So I mean, I'm not gonna say it's okay to sin, but that is the reason that he gave his life for you. I mean, that's it. So, thankfully, the good shepherd shows sympathy and pursues those lost little sheep. He doesn't punish, shame, or insult them. He rescues them. God's heart is for the one who's hurting. The one who's hurting, lost, and broken. He has allowed us to represent Jesus, our shepherd, and help rescue the lost. I'll say that I have a close person in my life who has done a lot of things wrong, and she is scared to come to church. And I don't know and I tell her all the time, me and Aubrey've talked to her, and I tell her all the time, it is okay. It's fine to, if you're not being judged. Nobody here is going to judge you. We're all here for the same reason. We've all done things like that. You're not going to be judged. God doesn't judge you. He's also, nobody is perfect but him. I mean, I don't know what else, what other way to put it besides you're in this building for a reason. I mean, that's just, he doesn't, I mean, I don't know, he doesn't judge you. He doesn't make you feel bad for what you've done. I mean, he's always going to be there for you. And then it says, go after the one. That's your next fill in the blank. I know I've just kind of skimmed through it, but 1 Corinthians 9:19, verse 23, or verse 19, what you want to call it. Even though I'm a free man with no master, I've become a slave to all people to bring many to Christ. When I was with the Jews, I lived like a Jew to bring the Jews to Christ. When I was with those who follow the Jewish law, I lived too under that law. Even though I'm not subject to the law, I did this so I could bring to Christ those who were under the law. When I'm with the Gentiles who do not follow the Jewish law, I too live apart from that law so I can bring them to Christ. But I do not ignore the law of God. I obey the law of Christ. When I'm with those who are weak, I share the weakness. For I want to bring the weak to Christ. Yes, I try to find common ground with everyone, doing everything I can to save some. I do everything to spread the good news and sharing His blessings. And that, to me, that speaks out as an everyday occurrence, as in you're hanging out. Say you hang out with this one group, and you may be the only one that goes to church. And you're sitting there, but you act like them, trying. You may not, but you act like them, and you can try to share the gospel. But if you're not like them, they're not going to want anything to do with you. So you have to try to be like them while still following God's commands. What He wants you to do, and the way you should live. It's hard to do, but and here, as He talked about, I mean, the Jews and everything like that. I mean, he purposely went and acted like them and was in their culture to try to bring them to Christ. That's how dedicated you should be to bring somebody to Christ. Doesn't matter, who judges you. That's how dedicated you should be. And this says, are you willing to change your approach to life and your comfort level if it means someone coming to know Jesus? Which I just said, it's hard. I mean, like I said, for me itself, it's hard. It's not something that should be as hard as it is, but it is, because a lot of people, not getting anything, but a lot of people don't, they don't want to know Jesus. What can you do if somebody doesn't want to know Jesus? How can you help that person? The only thing I can say is pray for them. Pray for them and hope that they just come to know Jesus one day. That's all you can do. Paul was willing to use his freedom for one purpose: sharing the gospel and winning souls for Jesus. If we were honest with ourselves, many of us would take freedom for ourselves and our own comfort and pleasure. Sadly, many of us don't try that hard regarding evangelism. we may sheepishly ask if somebody knows Jesus, yet we can problem solve an issue for hours regarding something we're deeply interested in. And that's the worst part about it. Is you can sit there and I use Aubrey because I talk to Aubrey. I can sit there and I can talk to Aubrey for hours about a situation I'm having at work or something like that. But when it comes to talking about Jesus, yeah, we may talk, but it'll only be a 15-minute conversation. But we just had a 45-minute conversation about something that's going on during the day. The thing is, you don't put as much focus and priority as you should on Jesus. And that's just, I mean, it's like I said, it's hard to do, but without thinking about it, you don't just sit there and start talking about the gospel and, and listening to, say, gospel music and stuff like that. You just don't do it. And it's not a good thing, but I mean, it's what happens. And until you get to know Jesus, and you get to trust Him with everything, take everything off your shoulders, it's going to be like that. So you have to. I'm not telling you to just sit there and just try harder, because that's not a good. But you have to try. That's all. That's really all I gotta say. You just try. This says, do whatever it takes to reach the one. Which, yet again, that's what 1 Corinthians it goes along with. Is he went and he was in 3 or 4 different cultures trying to reach the one. I mean, he brought so many people to Christ by being just like them. I mean, If that's not dedication and loyalty to bring somebody to Christ, I don't know what it is. I know I've been real fast, but his last one says make evangelism a priority. Don't consider this optional or a type of extra credit for Christians. This is our calling while we are here on this earth. Share the gospel with the one who needs Jesus, whatever it takes. Yep. I know that was fast.